Я буду продолжать дело Алексея Навального.
Alexei Navalny's widow, Yulia Navalnaya, is emerging as a new political force after she promised to carry on her husband's struggle for a free Russia. The most vocal critic of President Vladimir Putin died in an Arctic penal colony in mid-February. He had been serving sentences amounting to more than 30 years on various charges.
Behind bars, he still had an incredible symbolic presence. His death now really shows a hole that has emerged now in the Russian opposition.
So will Navalny be able to rally Russians disheartened by her husband's death? For years, Navalnaya was a near constant presence by her husband's side during political protests and court hearings.
She was maybe not taking center stage with Navalny, but she made herself seen, and that was extremely important.
When Navalny was poisoned with a nerve agent in 2020, it was his wife who pushed for clearance to fly him to Germany for life-saving treatment. When he returned to Russia months later, she was with him until the moment police detained Navalny at the airport. Now, with her husband dead and millions of Russians grieving across the country, Yulia Navalnaya is calling on them to stand with her against President Vladimir Putin.
Убив Алексея, Путин убил половину меня, половину моего сердца и половину моей души. Но у меня осталась вторая половина, и она подсказывает мне, что я не имею права сдаваться.
She doesn't have a base of her own, and I don't think she has quite a message of her own either right now. Her husband was very well known internationally. I think the very force of his character will continue with her, perhaps more easily than in other cases. But ultimately, she will be playing a role of trying to gather European and potentially American support as well for further action against Vladimir Putin.
The role Navalnaya could play inside Russia is less clear, as most of the country's opposition figures are either dead, in prison, or scattered abroad in exile. She herself is set to continue her husband's work from abroad, but reaching out to people inside Russia will be tough, as dissent has been brutally crushed in recent years. Even bringing flowers to honor Navalny can lead to detention.
Было страшно сюда идти, потому что в сети куча видео, где задерживают людей, вот даже сирены. Вот.
Unlike Alexei Navalny, whose moral force was based on his demand to stay inside of Russia, it doesn't make sense for Yulia Navalnaya to be inside of Russia. Being outside of the country, however, she faces a real uphill battle. The Russian opposition is intensely patriotic, and the country itself is increasingly closed, which makes it more and more difficult to get that message into Russia.
Almost a week after Alexei Navalny's death, his mother finally saw her son's body.
Я хочу, чтобы и у вас, кому Алексей дорог, для кого его смерть стала личной трагедией, была возможность с ним проститься.
But she says officials refuse to release his body unless she agrees to a secret funeral.
The Kremlin has always been afraid of him being a martyr in one way or another, and being a rallying point in death or in illness or in whatever of the opposition.
The Kremlin dismissed allegations by Navalny that Putin killed her husband and said it wasn't following the situation with Navalny's body.
Right now, there's a very understandable backlash against Russia because of Navalny's death. Increased sanctions, condemnations. I think more importantly going forward is how we're going to see her develop and implement a strategy, and what that strategy is going to look like.